When the weather was still warmer, end of spring, I noticed all the goldfish were, spawning, which is great because the next year I do actually want to breed some goldfish. Try my hand at raising some. And you may kind of be guessing what I found, to be honest with you. At the end of the last video, I said I found something in the pond, and it was cold by this point. This is still a few weeks ago. It was very cold outside, and you may be able to just see that. I'm not talking about the snail. I'm talking about some goldfish fry. They had found a home, and it was in total, I found this one to start with, and I was very excited, to be honest with you, because I've never raised goldfish fry before, and I really wanted to give it a go. I know that they would probably not survive outside. It's so cold, and I'm surprised they survived already, to be honest. The rest from the whatever had hatched had obviously been eaten or just died. But there was there was this one here, and I very quickly decided I was going to try my hand at seeing how big I could raise them. I'm just keep saying them because they actually, giving it away a bit, they turned out to be two. But this one, very, very young. I don't know, someone else in the comments might be able to tell me how old this fish is, but it looked like to me it was a week, maybe. It was still swimming around. I know they don't swim around within the first week. They kind of just eat in their egg sac kind of thing that they come from the little reading I've done so far. But I just thought this could be my chance to try and grow on these two little fry that I eventually found another one. So I was, scooped them up, rushed with my sandals on back to my shed, which is an absolute state, but has the new Ranchu pond that I can use as a shelf. And I just collected them in a bucket. Didn't know what to do. Just thought I could leave them in the floating basket, but realistically it's going to get cold quick now. And like I say, this was a few weeks ago now. We're probably talking October, I think, if I'm going to say. A couple of months ago when I found them. So I was looking around to see if I could find any others, and as I've already said, I did find one more. There we go. You can see me just scooping it up. Managed to find it in amongst all those leaves. I did hunt for a while to see if there's any others. It was obviously pitch black at the time. I was just outside trying to do some kind of maintenance on the filter, but there was another one there, and I thought, this is brilliant. I can keep a couple now in this bucket. I can try and grow them on as best I can. So I pop that one in the bucket, and like I say, someone else in the comments might be able to tell me how old they think they are at this point. After searching again for a while, I decided that was it. There was no more in there. There was these two lonely little fry that somehow had made it. But I knew that they probably were hating it in that bucket with no cover. So I grabbed some watercress that I'd been growing and popped that in there, which, to be honest with you, actually turned out to be quite useful because there was some small bugs on it that they ended up eating. I think I've got some footage of that in a minute. But I also got some of this floating plant that I'd had. I thought, pop that in there, why not? I'm not aerating the water. It's only two very small fish. Maybe I just need to keep them in there with some plants and try and change the water. That was like my original plan. You can see there was some mosquito larvae. That's probably a bit big for them to eat, but I knew there'd probably be some other stuff in there that could, even just some algae, I guess, that they could potentially eat. But I spent a long time looking at them, trying to figure out if they were healthy, if they had all their fins, which was very hard to see at that point. And in the end, I just put the bucket on the floor, and I thought, well, what can I feed them? I had some copepods because I keep marine fish, and I had them from ages ago. Copepods are tiny. Baby fry are tiny, so let's see whether that works. It's better than nothing. I popped a cube of that in there, and tried to get them to for it to melt. I didn't want to put the whole thing in there, that would just pollute the water. But I let it melt for a bit and then took it out. And this is where I really started to think, okay, I've now saved a couple of fry, but I need to figure out how I'm going to actually keep them alive. And this was my kind of, I guess you could call it a practice run, ready for next year, when I hopefully have hundreds of fish. Maybe not hundreds, but I have quite a few. So obviously went into a bit of a panic mode and just started putting loads of frozen food in there. The rest of it I just put down the overflow so the other fish could have it. The next day I went to the shop and I got a selection of live food, as I knew I didn't have time. I haven't hatched anything yet. I bought brine shrimp, copepods, I'm not sure what the other one was, to be honest with you. Daphne, I think it was. I also managed to get off a mate some brine shrimp eggs, which I did plan on hatching. So this is me getting an old coffee jar we had in the cupboard. I'm trying to make a very quick makeshift. I had some old airline that I had, so pop that in there. I thought to myself, if this works, this will be a miracle, but I completely guessed how much salt was going to go in that water. So, and then I popped in some brine shrimp eggs. So if it hatched in a couple of days, brilliant. I would end up being able to feed the fish. If not, I had all that food that I'd got from the shop, which may or may not have been too big for the fish, but it was worth a go. So mixing that around. And luckily I had my little air pump that was powering, so I just popped it in this corner of the shed and tried to, don't know what's going on there, but tried to keep the water moving. Add in the brine shrimp eggs, an amount that's not exact at all, and I guess the next part was just to wait. Now, it was very cold outside. I think that was going to affect it. I knew that at the time. But I did want to show this footage here, as you can actually see the fish have found something to eat in the water. I'd left the camera on here, and as it moves around, you might start to notice that in the middle of the screen, down towards the bottom, there is a small bug of some kind, maybe a very small bit of mosquito larvae, and eventually it does go for it, which is brilliant to see. And as soon as I saw that on the footage, I thought there is some hope. Even if my brine shrimp eggs don't hatch and all the food I bought from the shop ends up being rubbish, there is something in there that they're obviously eating, and we might get to actually see what these fish end up looking like. That's what I kept thinking. I didn't know whether they'd bred from, it was a calico. I've got a calico female, Joaquin, got some ranchu in there. Could be a mix of a ranchu and a Joaquin. This wasn't going to be anything desirable, but it was a chance for me to raise a fish. So you can see now, you might be able to start seeing in the middle of the screen, a little bit of mosquito larvae starts to move, and this fry goes and starts hunting it. There we go. So it's just got it then. I believe. So it filled me with a bit of hope. There was some food in there that it was trying to eat. And remember, there was a couple of them. I also just put literally some brine shrimp eggs on the top of the surface, and I noticed that now and again they would actually come and just eat the eggs unhatched. So you can see it here, just going at the top of the screen. Oh, and it got a bit scared then, but it did try and get some. So I had a combination of food going in there. The live food that was already there, the brine shrimp, eggs that I just put on the surface, and I was trying to hatch some of my own. And I checked on them regularly. You can see that it's eating there at the top of the screen. And it was difficult to see them. Oh, there we go. So there's a bit of mosquito larvae going past it there. Might have been a bit too big for it. But I just wanted to hopefully see what these fish would end up looking like. A few shots here. This is when I'm leaving my phone on the bucket to try and get a bit of footage. And this is one where I think they go and eat a brine shrimp egg. Oh, there we go. So that was the same footage as before, to be honest with you. But anyway, carrying on. We had the brine shrimps all flown around in the salty water that I'd randomly mixed up, trying to get them to hatch. And then I decided it was time to change the water. At first, I changed the water every day. I was feeding also a massive concoction of things, which is not really going to help me in the long run if I think about it, because I just fed them whatever I could, whatever I thought was small enough. I need to get better at the hatching of the brine shrimp, 100% ready for next year. But I also was feeding a bit of the Lucky's Ranchu gel food unmixed, just putting that in there with a pipette. I tried to get a close-up shot of them here, and someone might be able to tell me at what point in the development they think they are at this stage. But they're very small. I mean, as far as it goes for me. And every time I did a water change, I would keep the watercress and the other floating plants. You see how much rubbish is in there then? So I'd literally just empty the bucket and fill it back up again. So 100% water change. And I was doing that every day to start with, because I knew how easily these fish could potentially die. And I really wanted to see them develop and try my hardest to keep them alive. So I'd sort of do that every day. And with the brine shrimp, I didn't have any luck to start with. I think it was because of how cold it was out in the shed, so I knew I had to change that approach. But I had a couple of fish that I had no idea which fish had actually bred, but I've got a good selection of fish there, so I was hoping that, you never know, it might turn out to be a nice fish. The chances of it having good traits, being the only two that are left, are very, very slim. But as I've said before, it was a chance for me to try my hand at at raising fry. So that was the size of them, that kind of first date. I think that's, like I say, around start of October. And I was just really gentle whenever I put them back in the bucket. Tried to keep movements down to a minimum, big water changes. Thought I'd try out some of the gel food, Lucky Ranch's gel food. While I was feeding them to the fry, I thought I'd also feed them to the big fish. So seemed to like that. It's a good food. So trying the different foods that I bought from the shop, the live foods, most of them were way too big. Ended up going in the marine tank, and the clownfish ate them all. But there was some there that did work. They did go for them a little bit. Water would get very dirty very quickly, but I knew that was going to happen because I was feeding such a concoction of different food. But they were growing, and I'm hoping I can keep them alive for long enough to see what for long enough for them to go outdoor, to go in the main pond, I guess. So that's the news. Got some baby fish to keep alive now. If you want to follow along, see how I do on this, then you're more than welcome. Thanks for watching.